welcome to Folklore Unlocked. I'm Austin, and like usual, I am joined by Ethan.
Yes, hello again, everyone.
And this week, we're delving into the famous bloodsuckers, and we're not talking about the chupacabras yet, so that must mean we're talking about vampires. And vampires are mythical, undead creatures with fangs to drink or suck blood with pale skin, and they typically sleep in coffins. So, very creepy, undead people, creature things.
And they're almost always like nobility of some sort. They're always noble people or something.
Yeah, yeah, like counts or something.
Exactly. Which I guess if you live that long, if you're not some sort of like noble or have a lot of money or something, you're not doing something right.
Exactly.
Some of the powers and abilities that vampires have, which this ranges widely through different movies and applications and everything like that. But usually they have agelessness. They usually look young all the time. Immortality is usually same thing, kind of with agelessness. They usually heal very, very fast. Unnatural strength, which that is something that's kind of more new. I don't think most old vampires were super strong, but uh, really fast. They have heightened speed, enhanced senses, shape shifting, turning into like bats and stuff like that, and then mind control. So
Which is not very fun if you're the one's mind getting controlled.
that's very true. That's very true. But the shape shifting is cool. I like shape shifting.
Vampire bats.
Mm-hmm. And I think most of these weaknesses are pretty well known by now because vampires are so like famous. But of course, there's the wooden stake that you can go through the heart. There's sunlight. They've just turned to ash and light. Decapitation. That's one that I think is a little less known, maybe. Uh, Garlic. Wearing a garlic necklace around repels vampires and stuff like that. Fire. Burning at the stake and stuff like that. Silver.
Burn the witch.
Yeah. And silver, kind of like most mythical creatures, silver kind of affects them. Cross and crucifix. Yeah.
Be,
Holy water.
begone Satan.
Mm. Anything to do with the church, I think, is just against vampires. So anything like that, yeah. And then iron. I mean, iron's one of those. I think it also affects ghosts, right?
It's either silver or iron.
Yeah, I don't know. But I've watched a lot of Supernatural, so I don't know for sure if I've watched it from there or not.
By the way, I truly do love the picture of the sun
Uh,
that he picked out for this.
it is very good. It's very good. If you guys on Spotify can't see it, it's the Teletubbies son from Teletubbies. Just a
Yeah,
little
so
baby.
please don't copyright strike this. We're just using this to describe. This is educational purposes.
Yes, very educational.
So fair use, educational. Please don't sue us.
And some other things that like vampires, it's some of these could be seen as weaknesses. Some of them are just kind of oddities, but they cannot walk on consecrated ground. So like temples or churches, they can't really walk in there. They cannot cross running water. That was kind of a weird one. I think we all know that they don't have reflections in mirrors, and I think the reason why is because it's thought that vampires don't have a soul, and if you don't have a soul, you don't have a reflection. So, one of my favorites is that they cannot enter a house unless invited inside by the owner. And they can be distracted by scattering objects on the ground, such as seed or grain or something like that. Because they are compelled to count it. And something I learned is, like the Count from Sesame Street. I think that was one of the main things he had, where like they would throw stuff. Well, not really throw stuff on the ground, but his whole thing is to count. So I think that's kind of to do with that. And this is another thing that most people probably know of, at least for this one, is like getting bit. That's how most people know vampires are made. But there's some little less known ones from Slavic and Chinese tradition. When an animal jumps over a corpse, which is usually a dog or a cat, a person with a well, the person would possibly become a vampire, and then a person with a wound that is not treated with boiling water could also turn into a vampire. So infection, stuff like that, and
A, ouch, because you've got a wound.
yeah,
B, ouch, because boiling water, and water boils at like what, 212 degrees or something like that. So
it's 100 degrees Celsius. That's easier to say. I think it's like 112 Fahrenheit or something like that.
either way, it's hot. So ouch,
Mm.
because hot enough water to burn you. So why would you want to burn yourself just to treat something that is already bothering you?
Now, sitting here thinking, I'm wondering if the website I was looking this off of meant boiled water, because that would make more sense just having clean water to cure, clean out the wound instead of putting boiling water on. But I don't know for sure if they meant for sure boiling water or not. We'll go with boiling water just since that's what I read. And then Russian folklore, witches or basically anyone that went against the Russian Orthodox Church were considered vampires. So you don't agree with the church, you're a vampire or a witch, whatever.
Good going, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Good going. You're just, you know, beacon of sunshine over there.
Always trust in the church. Always trust in the church.
And I always believe in Russia to do the most awful things.
You gonna go on with Vlad now?
Yep. Well, Vlad the Third, most popular, more popularly known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula, also known as Vlad Tepes or Vlad Dracula or Dracul. And Dracul means the son of the dragon, which his father joined the Order of the Dragon. And modern times, Dracul means the devil. And he was one of the most important rulers and a national hero of Romania. But he was known to have a little thing for impaling his enemies. So, and his reputation for cruelty was so well known that was said to have a thirst for blood, and he liked to dip his bread into said blood of his said enemies and then eat it. And if you didn't know, he's the inspiration for Count Dracula. Nice guy.
Very nice guy. National hero.
Yeah,
Oh, and something I also another like not really execution method, but like I guess a torture method is he would sometimes nail people's hats to their heads.
yeah, very, very nice guy.
Yeah, very nice guy.
And now we move on to another very nice person, this time, Elizabeth Bathory, who was a Hungarian noblewoman who was an alleged serial killer who was accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and women between 1590 and 1610. And she's accused of biting the flesh of girls while torturing them and bathing in their blood to retain her youthful beauty. She is thought to be a true vampire, and she's known as Blood Callus and Callus Dracula. So another very nice person to go along with, you know, our boy Vladdy that we just talked about.
And I cannot stress this enough that it is alleged and she was accused. So we don't know for sure if these actually did happen, but I think they said they had like 300 people that would like that said that they like knew about this or something like that. Or maybe it was like 50 and then 300 or something else. I don't know. But there were quite a few people that said they saw this or like knew of it. So it's accused, but it could have been true.
Yeah, this is all allegedly. Everybody that was around back then should be dead, but who knows if they're a vampire, they might still be alive. So don't come after us if you're somehow a vampire and still alive.
Oh, and I don't know for sure exactly how Elizabeth died, but when she was accused of the torturing and stuff like that, they didn't have her killed. They just locked her in her castle. They just kept her in her castle. So I didn't look up how she actually died. So I mean, if she was a vampire, she could be alive. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, she's definitely a vampire and still alive. So to save our skins, it's all alleged and accusations. We're just reporting what we've heard and what people talked about during that time. So please don't bite our necks.
Which, to be honest, there are worse things you could become than a vampire. I mean, I do like the sunlight and going out and stuff like that, but I mean, getting like super strength, immortality, agelessness, stuff like that. I mean, it's not that bad. It's better than becoming a werewolf, I think.
Oh yeah,
So, some of the origins to these, or possible explanations for why people were called vampires, are one is about the decomposition of bodies and stuff. Sometimes the bodies didn't look dead, or they didn't start decomposing. They just took longer. And people took that as a sign of them continuing life. So they would sometimes put bodies upside down in the coffin, like they'd bury them on their stomachs. So if they did come back alive, they would try to dig down instead of up. There's also times where they would put like bricks or rocks in the people's mouth. So if they did wake up and try to bite people, they would be biting the rock. So just different ways they had to do that. And also premature burial. That was something that was kind of a problem in the olden days because sometimes people would look dead. They wouldn't do embalming or anything like that, and they just put someone in a coffin, bury them, and sometimes those people would wake up and freak out. And that's why sometimes coffin lids would have fingernail marks and blood and stuff because people were trying to claw their way out of the coffin.
yeah. It got so bad that they finally started putting bells, like connect bells to the coffin. If the bell rung, the person was still alive, and then they have to, try and dig them out before they suffocated.
Yeah, I I feel like I wouldn't trust a person sitting there above my grave to listen for the bell because what if they fell asleep?
Exactly.
That's just terrifying. And then also bloodied faces and noses that people would find like sometimes they would dig up corpses to like look at them and make sure they weren't still like alive or anything, and they'd have bloodied face or noses, and that is thought to be sometimes when people count the claw marks, people were hitting their head against the top of the coffin to try to get out, and they would get blood all over themselves. Which people would think is, oh, that person had got out, had a meal, and then came back down there and went back to sleep as a vampire. Then there are some diseases that are kind of thought to be explanations for some vampire things. One of them, rabies. it causes hypersensitivity, which could explain the susceptibility to garlic and sunlight that we think of vampires having. And then also, wolves and bats are carriers of rabies. So when we think of vampire bats and stuff like that, and you think of bats biting people and stuff like that, they could have spread the rabies to someone, and then that person could have got rabies. And rabies also can cause abnormal sleeping patterns. So that could cause someone to be awake at night and not really want to be awake in the morning because they're susceptible to sunlight. And I cannot really pronounce the other one. Hymatopsia? I
Close enough for me.
Yeah. But anyways, it's the sexual thirst for blood. So that's what people kind of think like, oh, whenever they bite someone, stuff like that. That might be a reason why. And then there's also another disease which porphyria. It's known as the vampire disease if you look it up. And it causes vampire-like symptoms such as extreme sensitivity to sunlight and also sometimes hairiness, so that could be possibly with werewolves again. So there's a few different diseases that can cause stuff like vampire symptoms. So, and if you guys watch like I guess most of these aren't like scary movies or anything like that. But like if you watch vampire movies or TV shows or stuff like that, here are some famous vampires that you might have heard of. So, of course, we know of Dracula. There's been many different Draculas. Alucard, which you might know from Hellsing, the anime. There's Nosferatu from the 1922's Nosferatu film, and you probably might know it if you're younger from SpongeBob. One of the, I think it was a Halloween episode, was it?
It was the hash slinging slasher episode.
That's what it was. Because they're sitting there, and it's like, now who's flipping the lights? And it's Nosferatu. And then they show, I think, that exact picture from there.
Yeah, it was.
Uh, there's also the Count from Sesame Street, which we talked about a little bit. Marceline from Adventure Time. There is Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I didn't really want to add this one because I don't really like Twilight, but since he is a vampire and people know about him, Edward Cullen.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't want to add it, but I feel like we probably had to.
And then there's the song Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo, which is pretty big right now.
Oh, really? I haven't heard
To
of it.
it's actually a pretty decent song.
Okay.
Not really my cup of tea, but it's a big enough song from a big enough artist to kind of throw in since we're talking about vampires and pop culture. So,
Mm-hmm.
and some other names or other names slash other versions of vampires or vampiric creatures is the Striga of Albania, the Strigoi of Romania, and forgive me, I am not Greek, so don't punish me too hard for this pronunciation, but the Vrikolakas of Greece.
I've also heard of Dampier. I've also heard that called said, which I don't really know what that's
Yes.
from.
But to our thoughts, I don't think vampires are real, though some people and animals do drink blood, and under the right conditions, bodies don't decompose like they normally do or should, like in the winter when it's cold, but bodies won't decompose like they would any other time of year. So those are my thoughts on vampires and vampiric creatures.
I say I'm the same way. Like I don't really believe in actual undead vampires like we'd think of with all the agelessness and immortality or anything like that. I don't believe in those. But kind of like we talked with the diseases and stuff like that, with the right combination of diseases, someone could have the right symptoms to seem like a vampire. Kind of like the thirst for blood, uh, the reaction to garlic and sunlight and stuff like that. Those are very real symptoms to diseases that could possibly be kind of like vampires. And like you said, like bodies don't always decompose at the same rate, depending on temperature. I know there's also like formaldehyde and stuff like that can keep stuff from decomposing. I know there's some monks that would eat certain things to try to mummify themselves, and it would kill the bacteria in their body so that the bacteria didn't decompose their body as fast. So there are lots of ways that you can keep your body from decomposing, and they might not look perfectly alive, but you won't be just like rotting. So, and of course, I love vampire folklore and all their weaknesses and abilities. I like the ability, like how they don't have not shadows. They don't have reflections. They can't cross running water, and they can't enter buildings without being like let in, being told by the owner. I think those are just really cool things that are just kind of interesting. So,
And I would hate not to be able to eat garlic because
now,
I like my garlic bread. Okay.
okay, I do like garlic bread. I'll admit that, but like I could live with very minimal garlic. Okay, there was one time, whenever I was going to school, and my mom packed uh, spaghetti, and my parents like a lot of garlic in their food, and this was like an excessive amount of garlic, because the pasta sauce had garlic in it, and then they added more garlic on top of that. And if any vampire would have been around me during that time, I would have been completely safe. There had been no way they would have come after me. So,
That's it. Just make a lot of garlic bread and stuff with garlic in it. You'll be safe from vampires forever.
yeah, exactly. We don't need necklaces made of garlic. You just need to eat a lot of garlic food, and you'll be fine.
Exactly. Either that or have a lot of crucifixes around.
Yeah, yeah. You could wear like a necklace with a crucifix or a cross on it or something like that. Or, I mean, you could carry one around. Huh.
Yeah,
I wonder
but
if you
but
drank holy water. I wonder if that would do very much. Hmm.
you know that's an interesting proposition.
It is like it's one of those things you don't really think about like holy water for drinking wise. You think of it like throwing on the vampires, but what if you drank it? I mean, then if they drunk your blood or tried to, would it kill the vampire?
One would have to think so.
Hmm.
But with that philosophical debate, I think that's all we've got for vampires this week. And next week we're going to be covering the clown epidemic of 2016, which is kind of probably going to be the most recent thing we'll probably talk about for a bit. But do you have any final words?
I'm not ready to talk about 2016 yet. It's too soon, Austin. It was the turning point.
It, it's just the clown epidemic, thankfully.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.
Well, like Ethan said, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that follow button if you're on Spotify. And we'll see you next week with some creepy clowns from 2016.
Yeah, bye, everyone.